Hello, can you hear me? Hello, welcome on in, folks. My name is Rainbow Kappa. Today's Monday stream. Today's gonna be an interesting stream. Uh, Folks, we're probably gonna be doing some Persona 3 Reloaded later in the stream. I don't know when or fully if we're doing this week. I know I kept playing for doing this Monday, but the plan is we're gonna do some Wii U stuff, be part of you. Maybe not pretty enemy, I was thinking about it. We're gonna do some other Wii stuff. Just necessarily just Wii U stuff, I don't really need it. We're gonna do that, and then we're probably gonna do some Persona 3 Reload to end the stream or on Wednesday. We are definitely gonna be playing more Persona 3 Reload in the future, but we're not gonna start with that right this second. So we're gonna try doing this for now. But welcome on in. Let's get this started. But yeah, welcome in everyone. My name is Rainbow Kappa. Today, we're doing Wii Party U and other Wii U games for a bit. And then we're gonna probably wrap up with Persona 3 Reload, I'm thinking. Or either Persona 3 Reload late at the end of the stream or by Wednesday. It depends on how long we're trying to go for, if I be honest. We're going one day at a time though. Chat. I turned my webcam on at the moment. I'm eating, so it's gonna be on out for a bit, but we're here and we're doing Monday stream. So I hope everyone in chat has had a good weekend and a good week last week. Sorry, I'm a little bit out of it, chat. I'll be honest. I started later than I wanted. I had some things go up. Not bad stuff, just forgot they were happening today. Life. But you know, I've been loving it, but we're vibing. We're like really I haven't had a bad week on Monday or anything like that. Just it's been really slow. So yeah, but really, we've been alright. We're vibing. We're vibing, chat. We're vibing! Woo! Yeah! We're vibing. Alright, let's see what we're doing here. Remember which vegetable the chef is putting in the basket. Potato, 1 pepper, and 1 corn. 1 carrot, 1 onion. Oh wait. They're doing an order. They're doing an order. No!
Finish.
Alright. I don't know why Wii U games had British announcers compared to American ones. That's a weird taste. Of tomato soup. Not British announcers. British announcers are so weird in Wii U games. They're just like the default for English. They wanted American English, we just wanted British English. The ones that spell color, it's color with the U. No one spells color with a U, Chad. Just gonna tell you that much. If my remote isn't wanting to stay turned on, then there we go. All right. It's Monday. It's a simple one. Second place gets second place times. Makes sense. Alright, I wanted to make sure that worked. Really, I was back to my computer though. Huh. Alright. Alright. Let's see, this is the barrel one. Do a barrel without barrel. Stop it. Come on, guys, stop beating me in the under. That's not wrong. That's wrong.
Finish.
Alright, we're good. We're good, chat. We're good. Oh, look at those dolphins up there. Whoa, dolphins. Mm. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, bum, bum. Ooh, the dominoes. Blue dominoes, chat. Blue dominoes. That's be blue. Press the A. Alright.
Start. Finish.
Oh, I got close. Good job, Soph. Good job, pat my back. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. I mean, it's not the end of the world. At least you didn't swap her with me. I think that was what you have fun at. So now they're probably best place after me. Excuse me. What's with all these last place boosters? Not the game! Not the game! Really, they're just kind of just skipping the game. Welcome in, Toxic, right? Happy Monday. Apparently, they're all just last place boosting me, and I got last place boost myself. What the hell? Welcome in, Toxic, right, though, and everyone's up lurking. Happy Monday. Toxic, you're editing Zach's spot? I didn't know you edited. I didn't know you were the editor that Zach was talking about. Yeah, all good, all good. Appreciate the lurking. Just welcome on in. Yeah, we're just taking it one thing at a time. It's Monday. We're vibing. We're just going with it. We're probably gonna play a couple of different VU games, maybe some Persona 3 later, because that's like our single player game that we started. But we're kind of just taking one thing at a time. But hopefully this VOD. Hopefully your VOD editing goes well while you use the system sound.
2, 1,
You know?
go!
Come on, why is this controller working? No. Come on, come on! No. Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on, we got it! No! Why are they going so fast? No! 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 Gosh damn! Gosh damn! Why don't they go so fast? You can't remotely do that on your Wii remote. Nintendo! Nintendo really doesn't know what Nintendo should do. They just don't. Just don't. No. Perfect. Give me all the die! Woo! That's what we're talking about. Pretty good for the last place that round. Oh no, not the pogo battle. The pogo battle. Not the pogo battle. The pogo.
Start.
Nah! Curses, pogo. No, there's so many last playthroughs to these games. To be completely honest, I don't know. So it's been a weird game so far. But it just like that happens whenever I play a game on stream. The game just thinks, hey, this is a streamer. Let's make this game really interesting for some inexplicable reason. Alright, do your magic game. But just know that when I'm not playing, you always give me incredibly bad luck. Like more than on stream. And it's weird. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. Alright. Alright, put your gamepad that you totally have right now in my room. Oh, sorry. Don't you didn't do anything.
Thank you. Okay. Now
I never realized
you
you would use
guys
that.
probably heard about this other villain who stole the pyramids. Apparently, it's a big
me
deal.
too.
People are calling it the crime of the century and stuff like that. But am I upset?
That's just
No, I am not. A little, but
crap.
we have had a pretty good year ourselves, and you guys are all right in my book. No raises. You're not going to get any raises. What did we do? Well, we stole the Times Square Jumbotron. Right. We stole the Statue of Liberty. The small one from Las Vegas. I won't even mention the Eiffel Tower.
Also from Vegas, apparently. Yeah, Toxic. Thank you for the honorary timeout. Not many people are voluntarily getting themselves timed out, but enjoy your video editing for Zach. I really am wondering how well the VOD edit's gonna go. So I see when that timeout comes out, or see the VOD in Zach's stream. Regardless, I appreciate how well you guys learned it, and especially Toxic. Now we're gonna make sure we win this game and not get that. Whatever, was there a tube throwing at me? How is he able to throw it that far? Really, she won't. No! I was trying to. She was looking at. She keeps targeting her. That was no. Boom, boom, ba, ba, boom, bum, ba, boom, boom, bum, ba, boom, do, 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 do. Let's see what we're gonna get here. It's decent. I'll give it that. Sounds like a fun story.
Start. Finish.
Another door. The gate. There are 100 spaces left. Alright. So what, you gotta get more green than red? That was what I'm here. Oh! I don't exactly think they wanted you to pass there. Where are you, Ian? Yeah. They just wanted her out of here. Yeah. Ooh, 1v3. 1 on 3. Not 1v3, not 1 versus 3, it's 1 on 3. Okay? Okay, guys. You guys are weird, I get it. You need to use your voice. Fortunately, I have this. I'm on my gamepad. We're not playing later. Or an HD Wii U or anything like that. I wish you could play this on Wii, but they're not playing Wii Party. Alright. Let's see this. Ah! Ba 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 da! Ah! Wow!
Start.
Whoa! Wow! Yo! Ah! Ah! Wah! Rah! 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 Can't get the middle. I couldn't get the middle. I couldn't get the middle. Come on. I call that voices. Stop being racist to my voice. Game. Alright. Dang it. Oh, dang it. Okay. Here we go again. Oh boy. Oh boy. Get dunked on, or like the equivalent to the space that's coming. Yeah. Oh boy. 1v3 again, chat. Masaka. Oh, go. Ah. Ooh, see, the cannons can't fire until the puzzle is complete. The gamepad must solve a solo puzzle while the 3 rival players must work together. Drop your opponent's hearts to 0 to win. Alright, so it's just using Wiimote at the gamepad. Got it. No, not the ball! Yep. Yep.
Start.
No! Yeah. Spaghettios. Let's do meatball first. So, you know, like one game in the Olympics, but now they're with me, and I can see my house from here. I don't know, I like that. Pretty much, I think you shake it and... Yeah.
Start.
No! Oh, Steve. Oh, don't think we won chat. I don't think this is it. No. Fall back! Oh, no. I don't think that is it, chat. No. Oh, man. Dang it! Aw, man. Oh, less than 100 spaces. Oh no, my stream was like not liking that one for some reason. Oh no, the internet's the bandwidth's fine. Maybe it's something in my resolution. Seems like it's only temporary, so it went back down. Which one? Oh. That's pretty good, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good for being us. I got another one. Will we make it, chat? Will we actually make it? Well, that second one isn't really a turn. I mean, it's good because at least I got somewhere, but no, I have... Okay, thank God I have to go back. Thank God I have to roll 10 times back. That would have been kind of pain. It would have been good. Dude, let's do the sewing. Let's do the sewing. Like the way you move your knitting needles as closely as possible to hit as many inches as you can. The player who knits the longest scarf wins! And then you just do this. Like knitting. Of course you're using me with the knit, guys. Of course.
Three, two, one, go! Finish!
I think that was a long night. 2 inches! Aw, man, 2 inches. I've been much better, but I got the 2 inches. Second place is better than last. I mean, admittedly. Alright.
Start!
Round 1. Wait, is this the zombie tag music? Remix to review music again? It's been bad. Yeah, this sounds like the Wii music zombie tag music, huh? If it is, that'd be cool. If not, don't Wii music is Wii Party Wii music, not listening to Wii music. That's pretty good. Traps. Oh no. 4 traps. Let's see. Let's see what we're working with, folks. Four. We will route it while avoiding the traps. guys doing? Move. Move! You guys weren't moving! Gosh dang it! At least it's 1v3, but Steve, jeez guys, I wasn't really sacrificing myself. But you guys were not moving. At least I won. At least they won even though I died in the process. Another last place boost? Oh boy. Not the air, no, don't throw your phone. At least it's not the worst. Also, it's not good because they're like really close now. Oh boy. Oh boy! Oh no! Doubles. Oh boy. Oh boy. Welcome in, Cash. Welcome in. Welcome. Happy Monday. Hope you're doing well this Monday. Hope we had a good weekend. We're doing some Wii Party U. We might do some other Wii Party U games or Wii U games. We're just vibing for a bit. For Monday stream. We're hanging out. We're vibing. We're hanging out. I hope the stream helps take some of that exhaustion off, bro. You know, I don't know. I don't know what's been up, but hope college and all that's going well for you. Hope the game dev and all that is going well. Well, they just won, so crap. But yeah, hope you've been doing alright. Brother, this person stinks! Nah, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it, so I'll do it. Meverse post? Can I do Meverse post on here? Yeah, I'm using chat, we're gonna type something. Hold on. All good, Cash. DMs are always open if you want to talk to someone about it, but yeah, for the stream, we're vibing. Glad to be here. Glad to see people who are here hanging out, lurking. I was gonna do Persona 3 load for the stream. We might do a bit during the stream. It really depends on how late. I'm not 100% energy myself. Not in a bad mood, just tired. I didn't get the best sleep last night. But the goal is we're gonna play Wii Party Wii U games for the main portion of the stream. And probably Wednesday we're gonna be streaming Persona 3 Reload as our main game. And then Friday stuff. Alright. I could just do this, couldn't I? Yeah, I can do that. Kind of like I have my, so if you guys aren't aware, you can play online and post on stuff using Pretendo, which is the Wii U fan server like Wii U 5, right? You need a modded Wii U technically to do that. They don't. It's like you can do DS, but really, I have my Wii U modded. One of the things I have modded though is I can switch to the screen, so technically you guys can see the gamepad whenever I toggle it. It doesn't really make a difference, so you can't actually see the prompt. But I thought it was nice to note. It's obviously I don't do anything bad at that. It's not like I do anything concerned about that. But yeah. Okay, let's do this for 1 second. All right. Oh, come on, Pretendo. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Don't be like that. Oh, come on now. No, Kevin.
Jeez.
Welcome on SMB fan. Welcome in everyone. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, okay. No, I have all the main ones in there. At least all the ones that I have the .usm files for. I think they're all from the videos that the original videos actually from the Discord. I remember playing some of these alone, unironically, faking the controllers. But I used to play button smashers by myself. It's just twist your Wii emotes. Name That Face, it's just from the original, pretty much. Lost and Found Square is just hide and seek, but instead of... Oh, it's not hide and seek. It's hide and seek without the actual room element. The situation is just drawful before drawful. Do You Know Me is just buddy quiz like Free Party. Water Runners is... I never played that one. BB is just Roblox food tycoon, but without the tycoon part, you just order people's food. It's like real life. And Dance With Me is my favorite. I remember the most about this. They literally dance with bad controls, but literally has a version of Super Mario Brothers and the Tetris stream that literally was... Sorry, I just wanted to check something. No, the Dance With Me is interesting because I don't think it was deliberate, but I remember playing this, and then the Super Mario Brothers theme. There's two game themes: the Tetris theme, and the Mario theme. The Mario theme literally sounds like the Wii Music version, like the one you hear in Wii Music, except it's an actual German kind of plot. I don't know how to describe the music. It's like that scene. It's like a tango accordion, and, like a polka kind of version. I don't know how to word it. I don't think I can actually play this because I don't have two controllers right now. But yeah, What's going on with my game? What's going on? Okay, let's play some tabletop. Let's play some tabletop for a moment. I remember when I originally got this game physically, there was this really random but quality life kind of accessory that came with it, in a box that came with a controller, but it also came with a tabletop leveler, so you could put the gamepad here, and the gamepad would be, because the gamepad's slightly tilted to the side right here.
Can you believe it, guys? Sonic the Hedgehog 3 releases on Paramount Plus TM tomorrow. Sonic 3 in a day. Woohoo.
Woohoo! Can you believe it? Sonic 3 on the talking about? Just a week away. Without the week, it's actually a day. It's tomorrow, chat. Holy crap! Yeah, I'm excited about that. But there's a thing because when you place it down, like here, place it right here. It's like facing up like this, right? So this accessory would level it, which is such a random. Like it works for tabletop, but the fact that even like they made an accessory for that, and they just or like third party people just didn't do it. It was random. All right. Oh, it's Frank. Hi, Frank. Hold on, chat. I gotta be right back for a moment. Okay, that's actually really cool that it has like a. Okay, so the touch pad works. One second. Alright, thanks, happy to chat. One second. I'm back, chat. You know, we're gonna back out a wee party, I think. Like, just wanted to check out something real quick. I think we're gonna change games. I think we're gonna change games. We're reviving, and all that. In terms of what we're gonna change to, I think I'm gonna change to something. I don't know why that happens. I don't know if the internet's just. But we're going to change, I think, to OG Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. It's gonna be an interesting game. I also don't know why it's acting like that. Let me see. I want to double check something. Actually. You know what this is called for? I think I know what we're gonna do. I think I know what we're gonna do. You wanna know what we're doing? We're gonna do something a little different. I think I even played this on that one stream. I don't think I played it on the stream that I would have done this on the. So originally I played Wii games, just random Wii games part of the Wii U's online shutdown week. I did when I was starting to come back to stream. I didn't play Japanese Wii music. So you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna play Japanese Wii music for a bit. I think that's a good side thing we could try. I don't expect any of us to know Japanese. But we don't need to know Japanese when the game is literally about music. It didn't have a credit or a title screen, so who needs to read when you can just play music and guess and stuff? Honestly. You know, I'm not trying to do filler right now, but ooh, notification. Alright, this. Yeah, chat, we're actually gonna be streaming Wii music for one time, and I'm like, wow. I haven't played Wii music in like at least a good chunk, by the way, guys. So, Alright. Yeah, we're doing Wii Music, chat. We're doing Wii Music. Honestly, I'm just clapping. We're going one thing at a time. But if you're unaware, why Wii Music such a big deal here? It's because this guy mods it, or used to mod it. I'll be honest, I haven't modded the game this year really, or last year at the heart's end, because I'm trying to move on. But I'm the guy that partly was responsible for bringing it pretty much relevant. So I didn't make the main mod major. That was the first mod, but besides that, me and a group worked on another Wii Music mod, which became rearranged. Released earlier last year. But pretty much, Wii Music modding is a niche thing for Wii Music. Wii Music itself is niche. Sheesh! That's no nice. But, yeah, chat, you know, I think, if you guys are curious, Wii Music to me is not a game. It's a sandbox. It's a good sandbox, but it's a terrible game. We all can agree Wii Music is a flawed child of the Wii series. So, if you guys are concerned for my behavior, well, it's normal here. I'm definitely Wii Music as much as the next guy. But I don't also think you should be throwing it into the trash. If you're throwing it into the trash, you might as well admit Wii Chat doesn't actually exist. By exists, it just doesn't exist in North America. I do have unfortunate news, and that is my nunchuck doesn't seem to be working. I tried it for a stream, so I can try, but there's a chance we might not be able to do any nunchuck stuff. Oh, look, the nunchuck actually kind of works. It just isn't really one of the. I think I remember some Wiimotes somewhere, chat. I just don't know where they are. That's why I usually play in Dolphin, because I can just use my joystick. Alright, 1 second, chat. Yeah, I'll show you guys. I have the desk in here, but I can show you one time though. So this is Japanese music. I originally wrote for Wii U, so that's why I can play this. But I also have the original one, which is pretty bad because like a year-old copy. This is my Japanese copy. The box even has the art cover that should exist, but it's really cool cover for what it is. And so these I never get it home. Like the story, Robert moment. And I have a couple other games we play in the sports in Japanese. I like to stick to like Wii games, like a madman. But I fell them for a minute to get Wii U and Xbox One when I was 12. Those games aren't from that generation, of course, but I love the Wii. The Wii's in my heart. Just sad that the Wii Music is just that remnant that I still hang on to so tightly. But yeah, we're gonna play Wii Music. We might even play more of it in the main game. But we're going with the flow. Okay, I probably think of that. Anyways, yo! I'm not gonna lie, that actually sounds really cool. I'm not gonna. Can't believe I'm making actual poop Persona 3 real poop their PC case. I know. So cool. Oh, you're right. Of course, yeah, I don't want to Fuka or Mega. I'm gonna call Fuka just straight. But yeah, please. You know, I know sounds cool, but always don't feel pressured to make stuff. You can always, like, I would definitely do it. But yeah, Cash has a point. Cash Boone has a point. You can always buy a PC later, or find one later. In theory, you should be able to get a Persona 3 case. I don't think people. Okay, I might be wrong. People might try to. What's the word? What's the word for buying a console and then reselling it? I'm trying to think of the word. But I know, like, there's, like, they do with the Xbox. I don't think they're gonna do it to a Persona 3 PC case. Pretty much. So, yeah. Scalping, yeah. I don't think they're gonna be scalping a Persona 3 game case. In theory, I would assume you would be saving up for that. But yeah, don't use any money you can actually have on it, because, of course, I think you would, right? You would spend responsibly, but cash, of course, it's always a good thing to remind yourself. Make sure you're spending responsibly, chat. I assume, always no one has to donate or sub to me. Of course, I'll appreciate it. But usually I encourage you to do it to other people, or just be using on yourself, because anything going here, it's probably not going to go anywhere but the string. I appreciate everyone being here, though. I appreciate watching, but ensure, please save your money. Please be fortunate, financially stable. That's cool, though. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad there's a case, though. Persona 3 PC case actually sounds amazing. My computer's just in right desk, and I don't really show it. I'll be honest, Cash, there was a period where I used to spend way more money than I realized I was. No, now the idea with me is I used to spend on a lot of stuff that I thought I needed, but technically it was more like material stuff than I needed, Now there's like a couple of things I consistently pay for, but I don't spend as much of the stuff that I don't spend as much on it, right? Like, I keep myself under. I always have like a good I keep a budget of what I do, right? Of that, which is a great thing, chat. You need to keep yourself limited. And a lot of times I spend it on other things that weren't for me necessarily. They were used for like subscriptions I barely used and all that. So it's like, I love supporting others, but I kept myself. I made sure to be spending responsibly in that too. Or at least when you do it, you need to make sure you're actually going to benefit from it, not just other people were spending it because you think on paper it's cool and then you don't. But yeah, no, I get that too, Cash. Like, unfortunately, it's a relevant issue. I wonder if someone would be able to navigate through this version of the game, Wii Music, like the Japanese, if they never played Wii Music. Like, I know it, but I'm probably biased, honestly, because I've been playing this game the last, like, so I played it when I was just, like, the game came out in I was, like, 7. Then I came back later, right, but I played it on and off, right. When I started modding it, I just kind of memorized it, like Cherry Beta Party, or, like, Cherry Murder Party stuff. I know the game so well, maybe I don't even realize that I know it. Well, I know how the game is, but I think Wii Music people can pretty much pick up on the UI because even if they don't know, because it's just music and you move the controller. There's no necessarily reading it required. Because the whole thing is you're using the remote as an air instrument. You're not meant to really need to know because there aren't any rules to the game. And that's probably why the game is so broken and so ill-received. Because they thought it was Guitar Hero where you actually had to be good at the instruments. Wii Music is a great sandbox because there is no boundaries. But that wasn't what the game was marketing as. It was marketed as Nintendo's Guitar Hero. Just to make sense. That's what people thought it was, at least. Bro, I was 2000. Wait. I didn't even realize I could eat on that. I didn't even realize I could eat on that. That's how I'm focusing on this conversation. Holy crap, there's the other Zelda con, the Famicom! I didn't realize that there was... It's technically possible, Cash. I think it is, at least. I would never bother, but I know it's possible, at least. I think it's possible, at least. I know people got it. I don't really know it's just because they're memorized. Like, I don't think normally you would get it. Because you would have to know all the patterns. I think the more likely thing you could do is get game cheated. But that's probably, I do love how they have these icons that are literally left in the game. It's like, you can get that icon, I think, in the normal version of the game. It's just literally a graphic. Is that what you... I like doing these motions like I'm actually conducting, and I'm not conducting anything with this game. Gives you that false sense of immersion. Oh! Ah! Oh! My leg! Ah! I don't understand Japanese. I don't... Yeah, I don't know. I just know that this unlocks something. Okay, there is one mode in this game I know that you might actually struggle because it's a quiz. This mode right here is a quiz game. So there's a lot of visual stuff, but I just realized that this mode, like this other party game, is a music quiz. And it's asking you questions and telling you prompts. I don't know what that says, so I'm going to try it because I'm screwed. I'm screwed like that. Yeah, I don't even know the prompt here, guys, but you can I'm gonna try it. Honestly, because, something to do. Which ones make the same noise? Is that what this one is? Oh, that's cool. Now I need to know. I'm just guessing chat attached. Like I know, like I can get the hint. I heard. So I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't remember these, right? I just because these are set, right? But like, I literally would be able to guess it because of that. Hey, Oh no, I hate this one. I hate this game, guys! This is why I sucked at this mode. That was easy. Oh, wait, that was way easier than I remember. To be honest, I thought it was worse. Or are they different in the Japanese version? Are they actually different? That would be shocking. I'm gonna cut myself some sanity there and back up. Yes, twinkle, twinkle, little star, my beloved. Let's do electric horn. Let's do an electric horn. Let's try the electric horn. Alright, chat. You know the drill. No, you don't. You don't know. There's no drill. Bum 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 bum. Yeah. That was good. Hey, he's in his drums. Yeah, this is like you say. This is what we. This version. I'm curious about something because decent. We're gonna back out and we're going to start mod stuff. Now I'm not gonna play a mod by me, but there's a song that I want to play on Wii Music. And if we're already in Wii Music, we're already in a rare Wii Music stream, we might as well go on chat. So everybody's a hungry chick. No. Bum bum bum. No guys, it's a Wii. We're not gonna get unweed here. We're not gonna get banned from here for playing the homebrew channel. I don't think we're gonna get banned from the homebrew channel at least. It kind of disappointing if Nintendo just said hi chat and hi chatted all of us into the ban room. This is Scott vote or whatever. I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad I'm using my normal mic for once because yeah, my niece is not having it right now. I'm gonna restart mine. Because it's not letting me choose. Might just be loading and struggling, but I'm going to just do that. Yeah, I could always just bring up the dolphin here. Let me test something real quick. Guys, you probably can't hear her, but my niece is singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star right now in the background, and she's pretty loud, but not like that loud. She just got me off guard, that's all. Hold on, chat. I don't know what I'm gonna do. We're going to. We're gonna. We're gonna unplug. We're going to boot up my HD Wii real quick, and we're going to play a little bit of modded Wii music to wrap up the stream, I think. I don't know how long we're gonna go for, but we're gonna be playing a bit more Wii music, I think. And maybe we can do a little bit of Persona 3 Reload while we're at it, but I don't really know about 3, I'll be honest, today. But I think it's I think that's a good wrap up. Try to go for it. All right. I think some of these songs might, they're gonna be copyrighted, but it's gonna be fine because it's modded. So, but I think Wii Music mods are gonna be okay in that regard. Let me know if the audio needs to be turned down at Tweak Chat. That's up. I think we're good, but I want to double check. Alright, we're good, I think. So this is Ray Major's final release. This wasn't the first one. I have both of them actually backed up still, but Ray Major 2.0. And yeah, this is the song I wanted. Final Night at Freddy's. Yeah, because Freddy is so retro. No, but these weren't from me. But I didn't want to play it. I was feeling a little nostalgic. Oh, we were playing Wii music. Remager is pretty much the main Wii Music mod people know if they played Wii Music. I was part of the Melody team in the Wii Arrange, which is just Melody's rebranding. But I made those two mods partly with Checker the Chester and other people, or Amazon. Yeah, a lot of releases, right? But I'm kind of vibing. I still hope people here and there in the Wii Music Editor Discord. I'm pretty much known to some extent. But I'm gonna move away because honestly, I can't be the one that's pushing that community. It's although Wii Music is a sandbox, not a game. But I'm 23, guys. I gotta focus on other stuff. But yeah, it's great to play Wii Music on stream. I usually wasn't expecting to play it here. Okay, let's do this. I PlayStation controller. Is that mine? Can't see it. True, Puka, true. It's Freddy. It's a retro. Ooh, not gonna lie, I might need. I didn't see your comment on the death maps, but I might need a new death map. I got a Five Below Super Mario Brothers, like a $5 Super Mario Brothers death map on my desk. The closet has a old PlayStation official PlayStation death map, but they're pretty dusty, right? I love them, but they're old. I might actually need to get a new death map, and that might be a perfect idea for one. Oh, yeah. Wait, that's Sans? Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I haven't fully played the original one. I know, like, as I said, I know kind of what happens. I mean, I never played episode Agnes or and I don't know enough to know what episode Agnes really contains, other than I know that the reload doesn't actually have all the content, and from what I know, episode Agnes gives you all that content, the rest of the story that isn't in the original. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. But I know Persona 3 isn't one to one with Persona 3 Reload or Portable, for instance, right? But I'm curious about about that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm definitely interested. I'm gonna look into the death maps. Yeah, help me. Go, go, go! Woo! Ba-ba-da. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-da. That's what I was thinking, right? I know. That's what I heard about Agnes, episode Agnes. Which I get, right? It's cool that they made everything. Ah, that makes sense, yeah. Yeah, because I know FES is not really the re-release, yeah. Yeah. Ah, that makes sense. Ah, Cash. Disman rep. Disman rep! Woo! Boop, boop. Wait, it says peanut butter. Peanut butter. Wait a second. You can play drums for the melody? I forgot. No, I know about this. Um, this modding for this game is kind of fixed, but the rapper instrument is terribly infamous for modding this game because the rapper instrument crashes the game. People have patches for it, but it's like a cult kind of meme staple of the modding community that is already niche. Yeah, that's what cast. Yeah, that's what I heard about too. I believe that's why there's a whole thing about modding the female protagonist back into Reload, though. That's like the big mod for Persona 3 Reload, to my knowledge, is... I'm trying to remember her name. But I know what that's about, and I can't blame them either from what I remember about that. Do do ba boo. Which I'm actually personally excited to see that myself. I never, I never played Persona 3 in Reload. I never played FES. Okay, I never played the FES version or the original, but I do know because I watched the anime movie thing in the past. I played Q and Q2 without being aware of the games fully. And then I know Portable. I played Portable a bit myself. I just never played them myself fully. Like, I know them. That's why I don't know every single plot detail, but I know the context. And to my knowledge, yeah, that's why I pretty much got on. And I'm wondering, because that's like, I'm excited because from I know about the female protagonist versus the male, is they're like polar opposites, same goal, same arc. It just, one's overtly positive, and one's just Makoto. Yeah, it's just Makoto existing. He's not exactly optimistic about this whole boom that thing. Make up your choices there, folks. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. The portable existence, yeah. Nine-1-1, that's kind of surprising to my knowledge. Like, I can't blame them for bringing back, like, everything for the portal, especially since Reload is kind of, like, with it at times. But it kind of, if they're making the portal in general, I feel like they would brought it back to the social links, who I know about it. But I guess they didn't, which is, it happens. But it kind of makes you question some things. I do admit. Yeah. Weezer. I want to play those songs. I'm concerned that these songs are actually too good for the copyright system and they'll flag me. You could play. No, we're not doing Piano Man. We're not doing Piano Man. No, we're not doing Piano Man. We could do Old McDonald on a farm. We could do Old McDonald on a farm. It's copyright for you guys. Screw it, guys. We're gonna play Old McDonald had a farm because hi, SMB fan. Yeah, we can do that after. Yeah. Yeah. This is modded Wii music for anyone's curious, and not the mod I made, but the other mod people made called Remajor. This is the final version, the actual second version, the final version. It actually was really polished. Just didn't come out until everyone pretty much quit the modding scene. One of the main members, Penelope, never came back, so he didn't, but he kind of left the internet. Oh, McDonald had a farm. Oh, McDonald. I'm not gonna slap myself if I sing again. I don't know why it's hurting me. It's Wii music. It shouldn't hurt me out of all people, but get this hearing actually Old McDonald in here, but just gives me some goosebumps that shouldn't happen. Oh my gosh, goosebumps. Wait, I didn't realize it said that. I'm not gonna save that. We're going to do Sonic Adventure. Also known as Escape the City, but I thought that it was gonna be so long ago just like fast or you suck. Okay. I guess I'm gonna suck then. Don't go there, chat. Never gonna do. Okay, yeah, we're gonna do it accordion if we can. We're gonna do the accordion moment. Loop. No, we're gonna do the flute piano thing a moment.
Hey guys, it's me, Sonic. I gotta escape from the city while this banger song plays.
Guys, Sonic gotta leave! Get him! Skip, Sonic! This is a good Wii music version, I'm not gonna lie. My lead will set you free. Follow me and set me free. And we'll escape from the city. Follow me. Go back to breaking my arm? Yeah, I will. Okay. Sheesh. we're gonna back out of that one. You have 24 hours before the. I'm not gonna finish that sentence. We're gonna try the other pack now. There's 2 packs that are major in this version. I mean, there's the other ones, but I'm going to do that one. We're gonna do the. No, we're not doing remake. We're not gonna do rearrange just yet. Disable that. Disable this. That. I'm gonna do Penniless pack. That was Adam Crossing's pack, which Adam Crossing is a YouTuber who's on YouTube. Adam Crossing is the guy that is more known for me than Wii Music than me. He's the guy that makes covers in Wii Music rather than mods it. And people know him more than me. And he makes actually good normal music. So indirect shout outs to him. I'm not gonna shout out him directly, but yeah. The Minecraft. Oh, I've retired, guys. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Don't get copyrighted. Not got copyrighted! That's the African. Oh no! No. That's not a real song. That doesn't. No. I was like, this is Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom, guys. We're gonna do Fallen Kingdom. And I hopefully don't get suspended from Twitch for this. So I don't really want to take a chance. I'm not gonna do Fallen Kingdom. I'm sorry, chat. I'm scared for doing Fallen Kingdom on here. Or Viva La Vida. You know why I was doing that song. You know why I was doing it, chat. You know, what we are gonna do. What we are gonna do is play. I think we can do it. I think we're gonna do it. We're going to do rearranged. I think we're gonna wrap it up with that. Rearrange is my mod, or the current version of the mod that was the 1 point release. There's an instrument in one of the demos that we have 2 demos, main demos, and both of them were played Rearrange originally, but they're available. Well, one of them, if anyone was in the stream, had an Among Us instrument. And that one also didn't let me play the game, so I want to back out of that. Awkward. Hold on, let me see if I can just load this without the do I have the backup still, or is it just I have this one. I mean, I don't know if this is the one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Remove the space. Oh yeah, Longy. No, we're not gonna do that. But no, we're not gonna remove the space. We're gonna remove you from existence. Like that. Get banned, idiot. Thanks, Cash did that, or if the bot did that. But yeah. Okay, this is rearranged. Specifically a test build from, I believe. No, I didn't check. This isn't. I don't think this is the one I was looking for, but I do want to check. It's from last year at least, which is at least from a year ago. But let me just turn this down for my part. Normal Wii music center. Wait, is this just normal Wii music? That's just normal Wii music. Oh, never mind. Okay, hold on. Alright, see how it gets game. Hold on, Chan. Hold on. I need to look for the right one. There we go. There we go. There we go. Hold on, chat. Oops, all stands. Hold on. Hold on. Let's do that one, and then we're gonna do my pack, and then we're going to do. I think we're gonna do the normal stage pack. Let's just do that. Yeah. All right, here we go. We're gonna do this for a bit. But yeah, I appreciate everyone coming by and lurking and all that. Yeah, I'll just I appreciate everyone coming by and lurking. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. Monday streams, you know how they are. But yeah, probably we're planning on Persona 3 Reload continuing it on Wednesday, and then Friday we are doing a normal Friday stream. Maybe something else will happen, but I can't tell you any other things. Okay, I forgot I got like a little falling kingdom. If you guys are curious, this is from the Melody demo. This is part of the Melody demo that I originally did in 2021. That I think this is the 2021 demo. So, which is probably configured wrong. This is my favorite song I've done in Modern Wii Music. It's an arrangement of Utopia's Event Battle theme, or Boss Battle. But I love this song. This is one of my favorite ones. I don't think this has the notice, but we can still work with it. Yeah, this song is not the best of my work, but I personally love it. At least the arrangement I did. I do need to be honest though, this is not ideally modding when I made this song. I did not mod this song late. This was one of my first main mods, or part of the main mod. But yeah, I really like this version. It's one of my personal favorite mods. It's not one of the best mods, honestly. Or like custom songs specifically, chat. Like those, yeah, these notes, those notes aren't possible. At least unless you have a cat. Okay. Okay, I want to check one more thing because, alright, I'm gonna back out real quick. Holy crap, it's Sans from Matt! Okay, I did not replace that. What happened? It's Megalovania. Forgot I'm out of that. I guess we're gonna play that for a moment. I don't think I'm gonna get killed. I don't think they're supposed to be playing a game with a facing time controller chat. But it works in general. Do. Yeah. No! Matt, you're not Sans. Stop being Sans. I don't know. Alright, because they're supposed to be playing as the Sans too, not Matt from Sports as Sans. Okay. Well, yeah. Yeah. Alright. Alright, chat. I'm going to be wrapping up stream here. I appreciate everyone being here. We're gonna be it was a great 2-hour stream, ironically though. We were playing some Wii music, which I don't usually stream Wii music here, right? I usually stream that on my YouTube, and I've been moving on from Wii music stuff. But you know, it's the unlisted playlist, you can go there if you really want. But really had a good time, guys. We'll be back for our normal streams on Wednesday. But who knows? Maybe something will happen tomorrow. I'll let you guys know. But we'll be back Wednesday. Persona 3 Reloaded is the plan. Friday, we are doing normal just chatting stuff, normal stuff. I don't really know exactly what we're going to do on Friday yet, but you know how we are. Normal stuff on Wednesday, and on Fridays we do stuff. So we'll be rating someone in Kami Kinen. I think they're my recommended great person. They're doing their usual Monday stuff themselves. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. If you guys are curious, we were going to do Mario Kart on the Wii U, but you know. Yeah, have a good one. I do need to. I keep forgetting I'm not logged in on my OBS. So. Yeah, we're gonna be rating them. Always, like always, say hi for me. Great person. Don't just say, just support them. Great person, just like me. Great streamers. Um, you know. But yeah. Until next time. Until next stream. I appreciate everyone being here. And Kappa's out. Whoa, sheesh. Bye.